Padless gloves, Luis Resto. In 1983, Luis Resto committed what I consider the most disgusting act of cheating in boxing history. Before his fight with Billy Collins Jr., Resto's trainer Panama Lewis deliberately removed the padding from his gloves. Think about that. Every single punch Resto threw was basically bare-knuckle boxing disguised as a sanctioned fight. For 10 brutal rounds, Collins absorbed these illegal blows. His face was destroyed. Broken orbital bones, permanent eye damage, career-ending trauma that no fighter should ever experience. Collins' father noticed something was off when he shook Resto's hand after the fight. The gloves felt paper thin. The investigation confirmed it. Resto had been throwing what were essentially concealed weapons at Collins' face for 30 minutes straight. Here's where it gets even darker. Both Resto and Lewis were convicted of assault and conspiracy. Actual criminal charges, not just athletic violations. Resto went to prison. He was banned from boxing for life. But the real tragedy? Billy Collins Jr. never fought again. He lost vision in one eye and died in a car accident less than a year later, a death many link to the depression and drinking that followed his destroyed career. This wasn't just cheating. This was premeditated assault that destroyed a young man's life. And it completely changed how commissions inspect equipment before and after fights. They learned their lesson the hard way, at Billy Collins Jr.'s expense. Cement wraps. Antonio Margarito. In 2009, Antonio Margarito tried to enter the ring with hand wraps that would have turned his fists into hammers. Right before his fight with Shane Mosley, Mosley's trainer noticed something suspicious about Margarito's wraps during the pre-fight inspection. When officials unwrapped them, they found inserts coated with a plaster-like substance. This wasn't just tape and gauze. This was material designed to harden throughout the fight, essentially giving Margarito cement fists by the later rounds. The California State Athletic Commission immediately confiscated the wraps and forced Margarito to rewrap legally. Mosley then went out and absolutely destroyed him, stopping him in round 9. Poetic justice at its finest. But here's what makes my blood boil. Everyone started looking back at Margarito's previous fights, especially his brutal beating of Miguel Cotto in 2008. Cotto's face was unnaturally damaged in that fight. Excessive swelling, cuts that seemed too severe for normal punches. Many believe Margarito used the same illegal wraps against Cotto and got away with it. Think about how many fighters he potentially cheated before getting caught. Margarito got a 1-year suspension, but his reputation was permanently destroyed. To this day, every win on his record is questioned. When you cheat this blatantly, you don't just risk getting caught, you invalidate everything you've ever accomplished in the ring. Jon Jones, the GOAT of cheating. Jon Jones might be the most talented fighter in MMA history, but he's also built the most extensive cheating resume I've ever seen. Let me break down his greatest hits. In 2016, he popped for clomiphene and letrozole, both banned substances. In 2017, he failed another test for turinabol, an anabolic steroid. These weren't accidents or tainted supplements. These were performance-enhancing drugs that got him suspended multiple times and stripped of titles. But Jones doesn't just cheat with drugs. Inside the cage, he's mastered the art of legal cheating. Watch any Jon Jones fight and count the eye pokes. He extends his fingers constantly, accidentally poking opponents in the eyes while managing distance. He throws oblique kicks to the knee, technically legal but designed to cause serious joint damage. He grabs the fence, grabs shorts, whatever he can get away with. The refs rarely call it because Jones is smart about it. He cheats just enough to gain advantages without getting points deducted. Here's what frustrates me most. Jones is so ridiculously talented that he probably doesn't need to cheat, but he does it anyway. His legacy will always have an asterisk next to it. Is he the GOAT? Maybe. But he's definitely the GOAT of getting caught cheating and somehow still competing at the highest level. Vitor Belfort, the TRT Monster. During the early 2000s, Vitor Belfort transformed into something that barely looked human. He was on therapeutic use exemption for testosterone replacement therapy, basically legal steroids prescribed by a doctor. The UFC actually allowed this, which seems insane looking back. On TRT, Belfort went from a fading veteran to an absolute Terminator. He was more jacked, more explosive, and hitting harder than ever before in his career. His kicks were like baseball bats. His punches were sledgehammers. In 2013, He head-kicked Michael Bisping so hard that it permanently damaged Bisping's eye. Bisping now wears a prosthetic eye because of that kick. Think about that. A legal performance enhancer gave Belfort enough power to literally knock someone's eye out of commission forever. While Belfort technically didn't break any rules, everyone knew this was legalized cheating. The backlash from his TRT rampage is actually what got the UFC to ban therapeutic exemptions entirely. His case proved that even legal performance enhancement creates massive unfair advantages in a sport where people are trying to hurt each other. Bisping's prosthetic eye is a permanent reminder of what happens when we let fighters juice legally. Yoel Romero, Stoolgate. At UFC 178, Yoel Romero pulled off one of the most blatant pieces of gamesmanship I've ever seen, and somehow got away with it. Tim Kennedy had just rocked him badly at the end of round 2. Romero was hurt, wobbling, nearly finished. When the bell rang to start round 3, Romero just didn't get up. His corner accidentally left the stool in the cage and covered him in excessive Vaseline, forcing officials to pause everything. This bought Romero an extra 28 seconds of rest, nearly half a minute of recovery time that Kennedy didn't get. In fighting, 28 seconds is an eternity when you're hurt. Big John McCarthy, who was refereeing, later admitted he should have deducted a point or even disqualified Romero, but in the chaos of the moment, he let it slide. What happened next? A recovered Romero came out in round 3 and knocked Kennedy out cold. He literally sat his way to victory. The UFC never disciplined him. The win stayed on his record. Kennedy got screwed by a guy sitting on a stool for too long. This incident, known as Stoolgate, showed how even the simplest forms of cheating, just refusing to stand up, can completely change a fight's outcome when refs don't enforce the rules properly. Ricardo Mayorga, the king of dirty boxing. Ricardo Mayorga didn't just break rules. He made breaking rules his entire fighting style. This man treated boxing regulations like suggestions and turned every fight into a street brawl. His arsenal of fouls was legendary. Deliberate low blows that he'd smile about, headbutts that accidentally split opponents open, rabbit punches to the back of the head, and hitting after the bell like the bell didn't exist. Referees couldn't control him because he simply didn't care about warnings or point deductions. Outside the ring, Mayorga was even worse. He'd smoke cigarettes at weigh-ins just to disrespect opponents. He'd physically shove fighters at press conferences. He once slapped his opponent at a weigh-in and started a full brawl. His entire strategy was mental warfare through pure chaos. While some fans found it entertaining, Mayorga represented everything wrong with combat sports. He wasn't trying to win clean fights. He was trying to turn sanctioned bouts into bar fights where he had the advantage. He held world titles in 2 weight classes, but his legacy is being one of the dirtiest fighters to ever lace up gloves. Roy Jones Jr. Institutional cheating. In 2003, Roy Jones Jr. beat Antonio Tarver by majority decision in one of the most corrupt decisions I've ever seen. This wasn't about drugs or illegal raps. This was about the system protecting its cash cow. Anyone watching that fight could see Tarver won. He outlanded Jones, hurt him multiple times, and controlled the pace. But Jones was the superstar. He was the draw. He was the one making promoters, networks, and sanctioning bodies millions of dollars. So the judges gave him the decision anyway. This type of cheating is actually worse than individual rule breaking, because it's institutional. When the entire system is rigged to protect certain fighters, challengers basically need a knockout to win. The house fighter gets every close round, every benefit of the doubt, every advantage possible. Jones eventually got knocked out by Tarver in the rematch, proving who the better fighter really was. But that first fight exposed how boxing's power structure can steal victories just as effectively as loaded gloves. When judges, promoters, and commissions all work together to protect their investment, that's not sport. That's scripted entertainment pretending to be competition. Charles Bennett, Chaos Incarnate. In 2016, Charles Crazy Horse Bennett showed the world what happens when a fighter simply doesn't care about rules at all. Fighting Minoru Kimura in Japan, Bennett literally sprinted across the cage at the opening bell and soccer kicked his opponent in the head while he was down. Completely illegal and completely intentional. This wasn't heat of the moment. Bennett knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to create chaos, shock everyone, and see what would happen. The ref was so stunned he didn't know how to react initially. Bennett had a long history of this kind of behavior, throwing illegal strikes, attacking after the bell, turning MMA matches into street fights. While not as calculated as steroid use or equipment tampering, this type of blatant rule breaking is dangerous because it normalizes violence outside the rulebook. Some fans actually cheered for it, which only encouraged more fighters to test boundaries. Bennett represents the dark side of MMA's just bleed culture, where entertainment value sometimes matters more than athletic integrity. These scandals changed combat sports forever. These aren't just rule violations. They're betrayals of everything combat sports should represent. Every scandal forced new regulations, stricter testing, better oversight. But they also left permanent scars. Billy Collins Jr.'s death, Michael Bisping's prosthetic eye, careers destroyed by fighters who couldn't win clean. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more combat sports content. Comment below which scandal shocked you the most. Was it the padless gloves, the cement wraps, or something else entirely? I read every comment and want to know what blew your mind.